Welcome back to our channels, Warriors. We are still growing. If you haven't had your Theo that's always overdoing it at the party, smash that subscribe button. Go ahead and have him smash it right now. First and foremost, let me give a shout out to the following patrons: Nathan, Scott, Mika Boy, Ramon, Lead With Love, Johnny, John Wick, Charles, Marshall, Albert 12, Coach Ken, Miguel L, AI Vega, Esquiel, Miguel, lead our actions to lead others to Christ, Big Bad 48, JT, Nova, Jack, Linda, Michigan Wolverines, Marius, Chevelle 66, Gigi, and Abuelita's Journey. If you have not signed up for that Patreon, make sure you hit that link in the description below. You are definitely missing out. This episode right here, man. Last night I did an interview on the Gray Line podcast on YouTube. Go over there and subscribe to their channel. Bunch of OG veteranos, pioneers of the game, for sure. Mad respect to them. One of the questions that came up was, hey, Hector, we know that you did 13 months in Iraq, combat, right, as a grunt. Is there anything that carried over from your combat experience into the Department of Corrections? Surely that had to have benefited you or made it easy for you, a walk in the park, having that. Well, my answer was not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. I specifically said that being a combat veteran is not going to prevent you from literally getting stomped out by 100 or 200 inmates. Facts, for sure, right? You try walking up to an inmate and say, I'm a combat veteran, bitch. Golly gee, it's not going to end well. It's going to end violently, right? That is the topic of today, violence, right? But be a little bit more graphic than normal, so be forewarned, right? If you're kind of squirmish, just understand. Pause it, stop it, do what you got to do, right? Find your inner peace. Violence. I hadn't really elaborated too much on this topic, especially, being newer to this YouTube. And I didn't want you guys to think I was talking out of my neck or, now you guys have kind of gathered who I am and what I'm about and what I used to be about, right? And what I'm still capable of. The warrior in the garden. When I came out, I hit the ground running talking about the warrior in the garden. Violence. In my time in the military and in my time in the California Department of Corrections of 16 years as an officer, sergeant, and lieutenant, I have seen people die in every possible manner, which way you can possibly think of or fathom. I have seen people shot to death and bleed out. I have seen people shot to death and instantly die. I have seen people get blown up by bombs, friends and enemy. I have seen people get stabbed to death. I've seen suicides where dudes are still hanging, blue and stiff, and defecated on. I've seen overdoses, thousands of overdoses, fentanyl and whatnot have you. I've seen individuals die a slow and painful death of cirrhosis of the liver at the hospitals when I used to be an officer out at the hospital watching the inmates out there. You guys are hearing what I have been exposed to. From the age of 17 up until 6 months ago, 38 years old, that's 20 years. That's pretty close to 20 years of violence. I became extremely good at violence. And I'm not saying that to brag, to boast. I'm saying that to inform the masses. I was really good at violence. I was an extremely violent person when it came down to it. That is what I carried over into the Department of Corrections. When it cracked off, I brought it. And my primary thing, and I've told everybody before, I only cared about 3 things in the prison system, right? 1 was my officers' safety. 2 was to make sure they did not get fired. And 3, make sure that they didn't get me fired in the process. That's why it was so easy for me to navigate as a supervisor, as a sergeant, and as a lieutenant, because I was only focused on those 3 things, right? They would try to hit me with audits. They would try to hit me with paperwork. They would try to hit me with some buffoonery. But I kept my eye on the prize, right? The California prison system is notorious for violence. Absolutely notorious for violence. I might even go as far as to say, and others might too, that California is the most violent prison system in the United States. And I know what you're saying. Hector, that's not true. I was at Rikers Island. I was in Florida prisons. I was in Oklahoma. I was here. I was there. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen people get killed. Yeah, I'm not saying that does not happen, for sure. But the frequency in California, it's your normal day, right? You will literally get killed over a chapstick cap full of dope, right? For not paying a debt, for losing it, for stealing. They don't, the politics, the inmates' politics, are not lenient, right? There was that young rapper that got killed on a level 2. I believe it was a level 2. That didn't deter nobody at all. It was just not even a speed bump in the road. That's how it's just going to keep on going, because that's just the system, right? The way it is designed, the way it is created. Since I've been out, I don't have to be turned up anymore. I don't have that hypervigilance anymore, that anxiety, that damn near borderline paranoia, right? Was it really paranoia if I knew shit can kick off and was kicking off and it did? Like, that's not really fucking paranoia. That's kind of like knowing what time it was. So what kind of stuff? All right, Hector. What kind of stuff are you referring to? Well, in Iraq in 2004, the rules of engagement were really, really, really lenient. Damn near nightly. Nightly, we were kicking in doors and snatching dudes up in a violent manner. You know, and that's if we didn't do, you know, what we had to do. That's if you guys are catching my drift. Over and over and over and over again. You know, they say the human mind, the male brain, does not stop developing till the age of 26. Well, from the age of 17 to the age of 26, all the way up to the age of 38, I was packing that motherfucker with how to be a violent individual to survive, right? To survive. You guys understand, I was on the green side, right? There's the green side, there's the blue side. There's criminals out on the streets. Criminals are violent, right? This is what I used to tell my staff because I had that experience and for their safety, right? I'm being transparent with you guys. When I would hold my meetings with my staff, especially after a staff assault, because that's when everybody remembers, oh shit, they really can get us. Yeah, you fucking ever forget that, right? Complacency kills. Learn that in the Army. I would tell them, look, if an inmate brings it here with the violence, you cannot meet him here. You absolutely have to meet him here to shut it down fast. Shut it down and end it in that violent encounter. It is the fastest way. It is the safest way. It does not look pretty. It does not look pretty. That's when you got these managers that were fucking janitors and plumbers and office technicians that like, oh my God, arrest that guy. I'm like, what the fuck? I was just doing my job per policy and procedure. Never did you hear me say, hey, troops, violate policy, go nuts with it, go off the charts. I want to see you guys go crazy with it. Were there supervisors that said that? Yeah, there was. And I told you guys, I made those changes, right? When I became CERT commander, I made certain changes. That was one of the reasons. I wasn't for that, or I'm not for doing extra. I already got that out of my system in Iraq. I am for making it home alive to our loved ones. And the reason why I say shut down the violence, and I also used to say this, the person who is the most violent wins. Period. The person who is the most violent wins. How many times have you seen on the news, on the YouTube, cops or even correctional officers fighting with inmates for a long period of time? Like, hey, when you're in a fight, that shit feels forever. Like, it gets sketchy. For sure it gets sketchy. You got the criminals reaching for the officer's gun. At times you got them taking away the officer's guns, freaking executing the cop. I mean, these dudes ain't playing. They're not playing, right? So if you shut that down, if you don't give them the opportunity. And then I was thinking too, I never talk about politics. I never talk about this. I never talk about that. But what about that whole, it was the George Floyd, the stuff that came out on the news, right? You got cops with prolonging a situation, right? In my head, it's like, hey, wouldn't it make more sense just to knock the dude out with a punch, one punch, boom, and throw the handcuffs on him? Yeah, that does not look pretty, right? Like, oh my God, who do you think you are? Mike Tyson, you're a peace officer of the law. You should have never done that. Go to hell. But look, you knock somebody out, you put the handcuffs on them, right? Yeah, that's considered serious bodily injury in the department. But it's going to go through the investigation. Everything now. You pepper spray an inmate in the face at Donovan on a one-on-one fight, you're going under investigation regardless, right? This is what I'm getting at. I'm not encouraging people to go around knocking out people. That's not the message here. What I'm saying, I'm in a violent fight, stop it, end it, quick, fast, get it over with, right? Do the paperwork, face the scrutiny, face the, you should have done the Monday morning quarterback, the hindsight 2020, the whole violation of Graham versus Connor that I'd be speaking about, case law. Well, Hector, you think you're so big, you think you're so bad, don't you know what these inmates are about? Don't you know what they're capable of? Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. Right? I was an officer. I had a front row seat. I was a sergeant. I was a lieutenant. I had access to reading people's files, inmates' files. I very damn well know what they're capable of. Let me elaborate. Heavy hitters. You guys, when I first came on the scene, you're like, hey, Hector, did you ever meet any of those heavy hitters? You guys know who I'm talking about. The ones up at the top of their organization. Did you ever have conversations? I didn't speak on that much. But yes, 100% yes. Heavy dudes. Heavy fucking dudes. And the respect and the communication level were mutual. Mutual right here. And the reason for that is because they had a fucking massive history of violence. I had a massive history of violence. We understood where we were coming from. We understood the repercussions and the backlash and the bad end results, right? It's not good for nobody at all. I knew that. They knew that. Anybody could agree. We would rather just go to work, post up, eat sunflower seeds, and bullshit with our partners, right? We ain't trying to fight every fucking day. That shit takes its toll on you, mentally and physically, for sure. And takes its toll on the family life at the pad. When you're all disgruntled, pissed off, right? Fucking fuming, like, oh, that motherfucker got me good, that son of a bitch. Cheap shotted me, right? A cheap shot? It's prison, right? Man. I talk about that attempted murder on peace officers on Bravo Yard RJD that took place with that one heavy hitter at the time. Right now, he's disregarded by everybody. I read that dude's file. I never spoke one fucking word to that guy. I read that dude's file. That dude in his file had a previous stabbing on an officer. Dude stabbed a cop. I don't know if it had happened at Pelican Bay. I think it had happened at Pelican Bay. So I'm like, okay, man. You have this dude with the history of stabbing an officer, right? He's already proven it. He's already done it, right? This dude's walking around with a new tattoo on his fucking neck right here, or like low right here where you can see the fingers. This dude is walking around a little too high and mighty for everybody's fucking liking, right? I already told you guys nobody is untouchable. Nobody is untouchable. Turn on the fucking news. Nobody is untouchable. I knew that was going to end bad. Everybody knew that was going to end bad. And then when it doesn't help when you have a fucking captain in the dude's pocket, right? A buffoon of a captain. A dangerous individual. Give a fucking idiot some power and they're going to go nuts, right? So when that kicked off, I wasn't surprised. Actually, everybody was highly upset. When that incident happened, there was another heavy hitter on that yard. He had arrived shortly prior. And rightfully so, the dude is not gonna touch down and make waves, right? How many fucking green staff have we seen touch down and try to make waves? It doesn't end well, right? It doesn't end well. You're just rocking the boat. You're fucking everything all up. Don't do it. Don't do it. So when that kicked off, even that individual, everybody was kind of like watching, like, what the fuck is this, right? What kind of bullshit is Marcus Pollard allowing here at this prison, right? Above him, Miss Connie, what is she allowing, right? That's how it got to where it got to. So after that attempted murder happened, poof, the dust settled. Now you have that one heavy hitter, right, on the yard. You had me as a lieutenant on that yard because I kind of got that spot through a, conditional bid. Meaning it came up for me to be able to pick that spot for a limited period of time. It was a good spot. It's a damn good spot, even though that had just transpired, right? Once we got the buffoons out of the way, and now the real men are fucking up in the front making some decisions. Hey, everything's all on the up and up now. Well, fuck, there was only one way to go, and that way was up. We already hit rock bottom. In the middle of the yard, by the handball courts. And I told you, I gave the other heavy hitter some space. I didn't fucking go over there right away and like, hey man, I know who you are, blah, blah, blah. Like, I know what you're capable of, blah, blah, blah. That's not my style. That's not, some people might do that. After we felt each other out for a minute, we met each other in the middle of the yard. And this was the exact conversation. Look, man, we have both seen violence. We've both been part of violence, right? I don't want that. He replied, neither do I. I said, it's ugly. He's like, yeah, it's nasty. Those were the exact words. I'm getting chills just thinking about it because think about like that opportunity or that experience. Ain't nobody really, unless you are put in that position, can have those type of conversations with those type of people, right? This is fucking history. My type of history, right? I was never into the old kind of like, history books like that in school, but I like this type of history. He even went on to say at that time, we knew that shit was going to happen. And I'm like, yeah, it was fucked up. He was like, yeah. We had seen it, right? Two men in the middle of a fucking yard that have influence, right? I have influence over the green. I was a lieutenant, second line supervisor. He has influence over the blue. Goes without saying. Agreeing. We don't want violence. We don't want it, right? Clearly we don't want it, man. And don't you be thinking you're a young cop and thinking you're somebody, a new CO, like, oh, you're a bitch ass lieutenant. You weak ass lieutenant. You fucking changed. You changed, lieutenant. Again, gather the message, right? This message, you're going to ask for something that you don't want, right? Unless it's on and cracking, that's a whole nother story. I'm not talking about on and cracking. Well, maybe I am talking about on and cracking. When it's on and cracking, then it's on and cracking. You do what you do, right? I already told you guys where we meet violence to survive, right? Not to go home and clap hands with our partner saying, you really got that guy, right? Man, my boy, you got some hands. It ain't about that, right? It's about surviving. So the message for today is pray for peace, but prepare for war. Keep pushing forward.